Good morning. So, honestly, as Heather was talking, I was changing everything that I was going to talk about.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, it was good. It just sparked some things that I think are worth mentioning. And the one thing that I'd like to do is leave everyone with the feeling that the potential for augmented reality as a channel for publishing is massive. It's a truly paradigm-shifting technology, and I'm not saying that because I'm in the augmented reality business. The flip side of that coin, though, is that like many paradigm-shifting technologies, the promise of augmented reality is very different than the reality of augmented reality. So before any of you go and rush to buy an augmented reality device or download an augmented reality app, you really need to be a geek like we are in order to derive a tremendous amount of value from it right now, at least in my opinion. I know that when we first started exploring this technology, it was more of a novelty. And we're only just now getting to the point where the infrastructure and the underlying technologies are evolving to the point where we can actually deliver on this promise of opening up the physical world as a medium for the publication of various types of digital content. So what I was going to do is talk a little bit about this promise, talk about some of the technologies that are evolving that allow us to deliver on the promise, and also be quite frank with you about some of the limitations of the technology that we've seen. Having said all of that, I usually don't start with a sidebar, but since I'm in Boston, I'll give you a little bit of personal storyline behind how I got involved in augmented reality. I have a military background, a military technology background, but a military background, and I'm over 40 years old, which really makes me an oddity in dealing with this technology area in particular. But a little over 12 months ago, there was a bombing event at the Boston Marathon. So the type of work that my company is principally involved in is a type of imagery surveillance. And one of the problems that public safety officials have and the military has is that they're really it's not enough money to buy enough cameras to look at things that need to be observed in order to define a bad thing that may have happened. And by the same token, the public doesn't necessarily want a camera on every street corner observing everything that goes on. We saw an interesting thing happen after the Boston Marathon event, which was you had a lot of private citizens taking photos of the finish line both before, during, and after the bombing, and then of their own volition sharing that content with one another and using crowdsourcing tools, social media tools to share that content and aggregate a mosaic view of that event, of that scene. So we had developed some technology for a very different application and said, okay, well, let's go scrape all that content off the internet and layer it. And effectively what we did is we created a geospatially referenced flip book of all these photos that you could move backwards and forwards in time to derive information about those specific set of events that we in turn shared with our friends in law enforcement. So that really got us thinking about, okay, well, how can we leverage the world itself as a publishing platform for different types of media, text, video, photos. And that in turn has taken us down this augmented reality path. Heather said one thing that I also wanted to emphasize is that the idea of augmented reality really is about context, contextualization of the physical world. Everybody is interested in deriving meaning from their interactions with the world, whether it's social interactions.
Keep leaning on the lights or something because they're going up and down. Can you guys see okay? Because I think these lights up here were off.
Yeah, they were off.
Okay, can we turn them off so we can see the slides better? I'm sorry, these things make me crazy.
No?
There we go. I feel better now. Sorry.
So the idea of contextualizing the world. People are interested in deriving meaning from the things that they do. That's really the underlying impetus for the social media craze. People want connection, they want relatability. And place is really no different from personal relationships. We want to know the significance of the places where we live our lives. I live in Washington, D.C., and I'm walking around one of the richest, most historically active places in the world, and I have no friggin' idea what's taking place on the street corner that I get my coffee every day. But wouldn't it be neat to know what happened there and have that be a very seamless experience of my visual sensory appreciation of the world, as opposed to something I have to stare down at my smartphone or my computer to explore. That's where we're headed with augmented reality. And one of the interesting things that we're seeing now is the memes that are emerging on the internet around this idea of taking historical content and seamlessly layering it on top of contemporary scenes of the world. So I've given some examples here of what that looks like from a photo perspective, where you see, the guy on vacation standing next to Hitler, if you can see that, and tanks in South Korea and the D-Day invasion juxtaposed over the real-time scene. Again, but that's an out-of-the-world experience, and augmented reality is going to enable us to make that a seamless sensory experience when we go to a place. So, in the case of the work that we've been doing, context as a parent for me has a lot to do with the growth of my kids, and if the parents in the room are anything like me, they've taken thousands of photos of their kids around their house. So this contextualization effort using augmented reality tools could be as simple as taking all of those photos and situating them in 3D space around your home. So every time you step out of your backyard, if you've got your augmented reality device on, you're literally walking through a photo album of content that's accurately situated on the world. The reality of augmented reality is that in order to situate digital content over physical objects or surfaces or scenes, you have to have some type of accurate geolocation information to place the content. The geolocation information that we use today is derived from the Global Positioning System, GPS, and GPS is just a nasty, noisy signal. So what that means is that if we try to register a piece of content to the world, you're going to see an error anywhere of 30 meters to 100 meters. And if you're in Manhattan, you may not get any placement at all. It's also a two-dimensional signal, so if what you want to do is pin a piece of content to a wall or pin a piece of content to an automobile or another physical object, you simply can't do it with the technologies that exist today. That's given rise to, and Heather pointed this out, QR codes. The reason QR codes exist is because the geolocation accuracy of augmented reality tools that we have simply aren't there, so we have to put a physical artifact in the world that our augmented reality device will read, and then it will place the content on top of it. But all that is changing. There's new infrastructure that's being deployed. Apple's got something called iBeacon. There are technologies called SLAM, Simultaneous Localization and Mapping, which takes a lot of different types of sensor inputs from Wi-Fi networks and even visual cues to be able to map the world in 3D space. And once we're able to do that, then we can not only register a piece of content to a general area, we can actually place a piece of digital content, whether it's a movie or a photo or a textual description or an article, on the object itself, and then reliably go back to that area or that object and be able to use that physical artifact to actually lead us to the underlying digital content that we want to share. A couple of examples of, on the application side, My belief at this point is that the hardware side of augmented reality is well ahead of the software side. So companies like Google have invested significantly in hardware appliances that will open up the potential of augmented reality once the software catches up. The software is not there yet, and as an example, the example on the left is the way Instagram depicts photos, and really all that is a geospatial representation of a photo where it was taken. Layer, which is probably the most prominent augmented reality app for your mobile device, it's represented in the middle, and effectively what it does is it just places a flat photo, over a location that you're viewing through your mobile device. So think of your mobile device as a viewfinder. When you hold it up, you'll see these photos revealed, but as you can see, they're not really contextually relevant to the scene you're looking at. You've got some yogurt there and the Golden Gate Bridge against an apartment building. The last example is where we're headed, which, and this is almost difficult to see, but it's a photo of San Francisco, and you see a trolley car photo on the left-hand side, but what you'll notice about it is that it's actually situated into the scene. So when you go to that street corner and you hold your device up, you'll see that historical photo of the trolley car layered over whatever happens to be taking place in the background. We've talked a little bit about personal content. I think personal content and opening up the world as a publishing medium for individuals will actually be an early driver of this type of technology. I'm going to show you pictures of my kids. So in this case, taking a lot of photos of our kids in our backyard. One thing I'll draw your attention to here is that using sensors that exist on the smartphone already, so your smartphone has accelerometers in it. That's why when you move it from one orientation to another, your screen shifts. If you use that accelerometer data along with GPS data and then feature matching information using some software algorithms, what you're able to do is basically hang a photo in the world like it's a picture on a wall. And you can actually interact with that photo. So you can walk around it, and the orientation of the photo changes as you move around the content. And you can walk through the photo. And then once the photo is situated, you use the mobile device as the viewfinder to reveal that content. Now this can be a social mechanism. It could be something that's shared amongst a group of friends. If I don't want to share my kids' photos with everybody, I'll just link in my personal networks and let them view it in the locations where those photos were taken. And the other thing that may be of interest is that if there's a piece of content that exists in a specific location, you can click on the content, let's say, and bring it to a full screen view and then reveal text annotations or use that piece of photo content as a channel to lead users to underlying digital media that's on the internet. So there could be hypertext, there could be movie files, there could be other pieces of information that you want to share with the world. And these artifacts that you're leaving in the world really just become a channel to get to that underlying media. The other piece of this equation is sponsored content. So in our case, we've been working with newspaper outlets who are interested in replatforming archives worth of data. So replatforming is a big issue for a lot of folks, and in this case, that's a historical photo provided by the Toronto Star. We've taken those photos and used feature matching technology to map the historical photo to the real world scene, and therefore when somebody visits that location, you see that juxtaposition revealed, and hopefully the significance of the locations where you're standing will start to come out. This is an example that we had prepared for National Geographic around the same idea. Again, DC is rich with content. This is actually not a real example. It's something we did. This is more of a Photoshop thing, so I'll kind of race through that. But it uses the same underlying technologies that we've already demonstrated. We've talked about the Toronto Star. I think the thing that folks like the Toronto Star are interested in particular are using these photos in heavily trafficked areas to drive people back to the newspaper article or to the underlying publication. I'll touch on some of the technologies here very briefly, and I find it interesting, and I'm sure you don't, so I won't spend too much time on it. This idea of leveraging a lot of stuff that's already out there is really the basis of improving the augmented reality experience today. I mentioned the fact that your cell phones are really powerful sensors. By combining those sensors in some pretty novel ways, we make it possible to really improve the accuracy of GPS. GPS gives you a nasty sort of location error, but by using things like the camera itself, along with the accelerometers and other pieces of information, you can refine that location down to something that's within a meter and ultimately will be within a matter of inches. The next phase in this is going to be moving towards object recognition. So that's a longer-term application where you hold up your device and it observes things in the world and tells you what you're looking at. The current state-of-the-art that we're just seeing emerge is more about tagging content to items of interest. It's not about holding your phone up and having your phone tell you what activity you happen to be seeing, but that's coming. And that's it.